Chakoti Vaishnava Minda Ki Jai, Shishi Gaur Nitai Ki Jai, Jagannath Subhadra Baladev Ki Jai, Gora Premanande, all praise to the Sandhavati, all praise to the Sandhavati, all praise to the Sandhavati, all praise to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. So, welcome back. Welcome back to our discussion of animals in Vaishnava literature. You're welcome, by the way, if you want to move closer this way to be a little more friendly gathering. You can even move chairs closer to you. So, how's everybody?
Very good, thank you. At least for me.
Yeah, it's hard to answer for everybody, isn't it? And one person. Do we have a place we could find this in? Okay. Okay, I have first some good news, for me good news, I think, and I feel like sharing it. I just got an email from the assistant editor for the production of my book on cows from the publisher, and she informed me that the book has been approved by the chief editor of the book series. I explained, I think before, it's going into a series of books on animal ethics, and mine will be, I think there's already around 30 volumes in this series, so this will be going in that series, and the editor of the series has looked at my manuscript, and he has said, it is excellent. Yes. He also said it is groundbreaking. You know this expression? This is groundbreaking. So he said, yes, we'll let it go into production, which means we didn't get a date yet, but it'll go in, it will be available, Krishna willing, at least by the end of this year. So, Hare Krishna. You're looking at one happy Swami. Okay, so I thought we've talked about the Lord appearing in the form of various animals. And we've also talked a little about animals as animals within the Bhagavatam. And we haven't talked about allegorical animals. What do I mean by allegorical animals? Well, especially, you know this word, allegory? When Maharaj Parikshit goes out to inspect his kingdom, as we all know the story in Canto 1 Bhagavatam, he encounters the personality of Kali. And what is the personality of Kali doing? Something very terrible.
Beating a cow.
Yeah, he's beating a cow and he's beating a bull. If you look closely at the narrative that we get in the first canto, it's a bit, there's a bit of ambiguity there. It seems to be, in a sense, telling the same story twice, with kind of two different emphases, two different versions. But we won't go into the details of that. Let's just look a bit at some of this. Let's see now. Where should we begin? Oh, somebody's not happy. Somebody's definitely not happy.
Shall I go to the next?
Somebody's attending. Well, we can start with chapter 16 of Canto 1, verse number 10. Shukadeva Goswami said, while Maharaj Parikshit was residing in the capital of the Kuru Empire, the symptoms of the age of Kali began to infiltrate. You know this word, infiltrate? Within the jurisdiction of his state, within the area of his state, which of course was supposed to be the whole world. When he learned about this, he did not think the matter very palatable. He didn't like it. This did, however, give him a chance to fight. Kshatriyas like to, when they get a chance, it seems, they like to take opportunity to fight. He took up his bow and arrows and prepared himself for military activities. It says he sat on his chariot with his black horses. He went out on his chariot. He had a little army with him, apparently. And he goes out to conquer all directions. And then it describes the different directions. He goes to Bhadrashva, Ketumala, Bharata, Northern Kuru, Kimpurusha, etc. And then, here we are. The personality of religious principles, Dharma, was wandering about in the form of a bull. And he met the personality of earth in the form of a cow, who appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. She had tears in her eyes and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus Dharma questioned the earth as follows. It's interesting, this analogy. She appeared to grieve like a mother who had lost her child. In standard industrial dairies today, after a cow gives birth to a calf, typically within days, within 2, sometimes 1, 2, 3 days, they will take the calf away from the mother permanently. You may ask, why would they do such a terrible thing? Because they want to take all the milk for themselves, for the business, because they're running a business. Some time ago I saw a YouTube video showing the workings of a very large and extremely modern dairy in Saudi Arabia. Now Saudi Arabia it's all sand, right? So there's no pasture there. But this dairy, this super modern dairy, I don't remember how many cows they have, but they produce over 1 million liters of milk per day.
Per day. Almarai.
Huh?
Almarai is the name of the company.
You know it?
Yes.
Is it near Dubai?
No.
Oh. Anyway, they're importing all the food for the cows. Everything is automated. They have everything computerized. I saw another video. This was at a conference I attended last year on animals. They've now developed a completely automatic milking machine where the cow decides when she wants to be milked. She goes into a small fenced stall, and the stall first opens and then it closes, and it senses, she's there, and she's just standing there, and then from the side comes this machine. And then zzz, and it takes all the milk, and when it's done, and then the front opens and the cow goes in. And the cow didn't seem to mind at all. The cow was like, yeah, I think it's time to get milked now. What is this world coming to? So, here it says, grieving like a mother who had lost her child, she had tears in her eyes and the beauty of her body was lost. Thus Dharma questioned the earth as follows. Now, of course, our skeptical mind may say, what? A cow or a bull questioning or speaking, not only speaking, but speaking perfect Sanskrit. But this seems to be an allegorical cow and bull. And what are they speaking? Dharma is asking, Madam, are you not hale and hearty? Means, are you not healthy? Why are you covered with the shadow of grief? It appears by your face that you have become black. Are you suffering from some internal disease? Or are you thinking of some relative who is away in a distant place? And then Dharma continues, I have lost 3 of my legs and am now standing on 1 only. Are you lamenting for my state of existence? Or are you in great anxiety because henceforward, the unlawful meat eaters will exploit you. Or are you in a sorry plight, a sorry condition, because the demigods are now bereft of their share of sacrificial offerings, because no sacrifices are being performed at present? Or are you grieving for the living beings because of their sufferings due to famine and drought? Now at this point we may have the sense that all of these are going to be true. Her reasons for suffering will be because all of these. And she will go on to give a long list of what is missing, all the qualities that used to be present in the world, all the good things, until Krishna left. And you could say one of the major themes of first canto Bhagavatam is that Krishna has departed. Krishna has departed. What to do? And the answer to this question is given at the end of Canto 1, essentially. The answer is, open your ears and allow Krishna to enter your ears in the form of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then begins Shukadeva Goswami's recitation of the Bhagavatam, beginning with the first chapter of Canto 2. So, in a sense, the Bhagavatam continues with chapter 1, Canto 2. And the first canto is the introduction, setting the scene. And part of the scene setting, and a significant part, is the cow and the bull speaking about what is lost. And of course, in their speaking, they're also giving us a sense of how things have become wrong, but therefore how things could be right. What would be a right state of the world? Well, it would be a state where, first of all, cows are happy and peaceful. There's an interesting philosophy going back to animal ethics that is put forward in all seriousness, I should say, but we may think it's quite ridiculous. But this idea is put forward. Well, let me begin by saying that the estimate of how many land animals are killed annually on this planet for use by humans, mainly for food, but also for other products, so-called products, is between 53 and 70 billion land animals. This is not including aquatics, of which there will be certainly many more. The vast majority of those, the largest number, are chickens, and then you can read the numbers, you can look on the internet. Cows is approximately 300 million every year, and that comes to 34,000 per hour. 34,000. So as we sit here for 1 hour or so, around the world, there will be approximately 34,000 cows being slaughtered. That is the reality of the time that we're living in. I was going to say that as introduction to another point, and now I forgot what the other point was. Alas. Prayanal Payusa Shabya Kalavas Minyuge Jana Manda Sumanda Matayo. The brain is slow and very slow. Quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, always disturbed. Maybe I'll come back to it, but that's the condition. So many animals are being slaughtered. So this has become normalized. Actually, this number of animals has exploded in the last 50 years, or we can say 100 years. And the reason, one way of understanding the reason for this is two points of technology. One is refrigeration, and the other is conveyor belt production system. Henry Ford, have you heard of Henry Ford? We all heard of Henry Ford. He's the great-grandfather of our very own Alfred Ford, who is saving his great-grandfather by being a devotee. So Henry Ford became famous for his production of his automobile, which of course he named after himself. In particular, there was the Model T. And he said, he confessed, or he said that he got the idea of how to mass produce automobiles from the meat packing industry in Chicago. So the meat packing industry, specifically in Chicago, huge industry as far as I know to the present day, but it went back to the 19th century. All those shows that some of us, myself included, used to watch, used to be fed on television, cowboy shows, cowboy drama things on television. That was all about this. It was actually about the meat slaughter industry. It was these cowboys. What were they doing? They were raising, ranching cows in different parts of central and western Texan USA, and then they would herd them to Chicago, but usually some other city where then there would be railroad, and then they would be brought to Chicago where they would be slaughtered, and then the meat would be packed and refrigerated and sent to the east coast of America, to New York, Boston, and so on. So yeah, we could say the third element in this was the railroad. And the railroad, of course, was introduced into India by the British. And to the present day, the Indian railroad system, it's everywhere, but it's still, it's like in the 19th century. They've modernized the, you can buy tickets online now. That's a huge progress. But beyond that, it's still the same old trains. Anyway, so, and the British also brought their British army to India, and being British and thinking that their army needs to eat meat, it was the British in India, the British army in India that that brought about the slaughter industry of cows in India. The number of cows slaughtered in India, the only statistic I found two numbers, and they were radically different, so I'm not completely sure. The lower number was 9 million per year. The higher number was something like 39 million, but I suspect the 39 is including water buffaloes. That's another subject. Why is it we say cows are sacred and buffaloes aren't just buffaloes? I talk about that in my book a little bit. Okay, so this is the condition that's being described, where so many troubles are coming. So the theme in this chapter is very much how the age of Kali is entering. But it's interesting, I think, that the two personalities who are discussing it are a cow and a bull. And the bull is saying, I have been wounded. I've lost 3 of my legs. And of course, the three legs are also symbolic. What are these 3 symbolic legs that he has lost?
Yes. They're the pillars of religion.
Pillars, yeah, pillars of religion, of which there are 4. And what would be the 3 that are lost?
Austerity. Austerity.
Austerity.
Mercy.
Yes.
Compassion.
Mercy and compassion are the same.
Purity.
Purity. Yes, and what's the one he still has?
Truthfulness.
Truthfulness. And truthfulness, you may have noticed, in recent months and years, has become a big issue in the media with so-called fake news. I think what's kind of emerging is that all the news is fake news because it's not news. It's not really news. It's the same news every day: birth, old age, disease, and death in various variations. Okay, and then the cow is personified earth, and the Sanskrit for earth is Dharani. So we have Dharani Uvacha. Dharani speaks, Bhavanhi Vedatat Sarvam, Yanmam Dharman Pritchasi, Chatavir Vartase Ina Padaya Lokasuka Bhai. The earth, deity in the form of a cow, replied to the personality of religion in the form of a bull, O Dharma, whatever you have inquired from me is already known to you. Yet I shall try to reply to all those questions once you too were maintained by your 4 legs and you increased happiness all over the universe by the mercy of the Lord. And then she goes into her list of qualities that reside in the Lord, and it's a long list. It starts with truthfulness. Truthfulness, cleanliness, intolerance of others' unhappiness, the power to control anger, altogether in this list, there are 40 different qualities that she gives, and she says these are all becoming lost. Why? Because the Lord, in whom all of these qualities are present, has now departed. And this is a problem. So that's there, and then the next chapter, chapter 17, seems to tell the same story in a different way. It starts out, after reaching someplace, Maharaj Parikshit observed that a lower caste Shudra, dressed like a king, was beating a cow and a bull with a club, as if they had no owner. One way to understand this could be that we're going a little back in time. So first we're getting the conversation between the cow and the bull. The bull has been wounded by Kali. And then you get the conversation, and now we're seeing what happens. And as Parikshit Maharaj sees this situation, he speaks to the bull. So we have a human speaking to a bull in Sanskrit, and the bull is going to reply to the king in Sanskrit. Perfect grammar. And the question that Parikshit is going to ask is, who has done this to you? Who has hurt you? And what's going to be the reply of the bull? Do you remember?
It's hard to say.
Huh?
Influence of time.
Karma,
time, I don't know. He's going to answer like that, various sort of answers which are not really, he's not pointing, he's not identifying the cause. And because he's not identifying the cause, how does Maharaj Parikshit respond? What does Maharaj Parikshit say when he sees that he's not going to tell him? Maharaj Parikshit has just seen what happened. He's seen this Shudra in disguise of a king, but now he's asking the bull, what happened? And the bull says, well, there's time factor. It's very he says, actually, there are so many philosophies of causation. There are many ways to understand causation, which kind of goes back to the subject of Dear Krishna Swami's seminar, Intelligent Design. And of course, the very first verse of the Bhagavatam, Janmadhyasya yaton vayari taratas chartesh bhavinyasvara, is talking about causality, causation, and it's saying that the absolute truth, Satyam Param Dhimahi, is the cause of everything. And it's giving the subject of what the Bhagavatam will be about, and it's inviting Dhimahi, it's saying, let us meditate on that supreme truth, who is the cause of all. And now we have, also in the first canto, we have this personified Dharma saying, oh, it's very difficult to know what is the cause. And Maharaj Parikshit responds, you are Dharma personified. How do I know that? Because you have not pointed your hoof, you have not pointed your finger, you have not accused someone else, any being, of being the cause of your suffering. Therefore, I can understand you are personified Dharma. So that's interesting to understand what is Dharma in terms of not blaming others as causes of our suffering. And that's, of course, a big theme throughout much of the Bhagavatam it's developed in so many ways. Okay, so that's kind of, it's setting the scene, the context of where we are. These two, we can say, non-human animals, but they are also thought of as something more than animals. And this is something that I encountered in my research in India, interviewing people who are activists for cow protection, and also people who manage goshalas and so on. Again and again I heard people saying, cows are not just animals. They are more than animals. And indeed there is the notion, there is the idea, one person in particular, one sadhu, who is the main inspiration for a huge Goshala project in southwestern Rajasthan. There's an area called Pat Meda, and within this area they have a network of Goshalas with something in the neighborhood of 40,000 cows and bulls. And one of these Goshalas alone has 16,000 bulls. And they joke, they say, this is our brahmachari ashram. This sadhu, very nice gentleman, explained to me that cows are the form of the Lord in the age of Kali. He said, when we worship the cow, this is the best way to worship the Lord in the age of Kali. And I was there during a small festival, maybe between 100 and 200 people were there, and they had set up in a very nice roofed structure. They had one cow, beautiful white cow, and she was nicely decorated. And they did arti to the cow, and then everyone could come up and make some offering. And the cow seemed quite happy with all of that going on. And one interesting sort of ritual, we can say, as part of this worship that I hadn't seen before, but I felt like, yes, why not? Was that the devotees, one after another, they were welcome to crawl underneath the cow, between the legs. You've seen this. I hadn't seen this before. And so I thought, yes, why not? So I also did darshan of the cow from underneath. And the cow seemed quite comfortable with people crawling one after another. Okay. So that's interesting, this idea that the cow is more than animal, and indeed divinity of a special sort. I coined a term, I invented a term, a word to express this. We have in English the word divinity, you know this word? So, and we have in English a generic term for not just cows, but it would include buffaloes and some other species, other types. There's a general term, bovine. So I said there is divinity and there is bovinity. Yeah, bovinity. But some thinkers, some people who are writing about these issues of animal protection, and in particular in India, and in particular about protection of cows, they're concerned, and I think rightly so, that sometimes this idea that cows are sacred has a negative effect for cows. In other words, we may say, oh, cows are sacred, cows are sacred, cows are sacred, but we forget that there are real cows with real forelegs and real bodies that need nourishment and need care, and that get sick if they're not taken care of, and so on. I visited one fairly large Goshala, and they had a few hundred cows, maybe more than 1,000. And I went with one devotee from Mumbai, and the devotee was quite experienced with cows. We came to this Goshala, which was part of a kind of activist group. They were kind of missionizing for cow protection, and yeah, they had a lot of things going on. It was very interesting. They had seminars. It was very nice. It was all very impressive, but as soon as we got there, we were looking at the cows. The devotee I was with, he said, they're not taking proper care of these cows. They're talking a lot, but they're not feeding them enough. They should be feeding them more. So, on the one side, yes, the sacred cow, the holy cow, they're special, but some reverse result can be from this mentality. And, I mean, this is a bigger subject, but it goes into all of the politics, the very complicated and difficult politics in India surrounding cows. It's a very volatile subject. You know the word volatile? Volatile. It's a hot topic. It makes people very emotional, and not just emotional. So, and the point that some of these people who are writing on this subject are making, which I think is good, is let's not forget that we want to protect real cows. We're not just protecting symbols. Yeah, so that's there. How did I get on this subject? Okay. Cows as metaphor. Yeah, it brings us back to this point. Cow as metaphor or as allegory. So we have allegorical cow and allegorical bull in the first canto. But there are also real cows and real bulls. and real cows miss their calves when the calves are taken away from them, and so on. Okay, that was one topic. Now, I remember from 2 days ago, it's already 1 o'clock, that someone had a question, and I kind of promised we would address questions, but I don't know if whoever had the question is here today, so in any case we can stop there for now and just see if there's a question or yes, Doug.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, what do you think about this, like activism? Like, for example, there is this organization like they're protecting the animals. They're making for the vegans. They're also like making some propaganda against animal abuse. And also there is
I think you were not here 2 days ago, were you?
no,
Because we discussed veganism quite a bit.
Okay. I didn't want to discuss veganism, something else actually. I know a person and I know a devotee that was convicted of burning down a slaughterhouse. Yes, yes. In Europe. I don't want to name him. Yes, yes. So what do you think? Because we talk a lot about this cow protection and organizing a farm, which anyway, maybe it's going to happen someday. I hope in this former Yugoslavian places. So, what do you think about this extreme kind of activism?
Well, it's not something I would take part in. And I would say the main reason is I don't think it's changing hearts. I think what we need is to change hearts. And then there will be a much stronger movement that will naturally bring about what is desirable. Whereas the radical sort of action, it's really questionable whether it's beneficial or whether it has the opposite effect of what's intended. That, people say, oh, these people are crazy, they're radical, they're dangerous, and we're going to respond to this by, making bigger walls and stronger laws. And so I think, or more, I should say draconian laws. So my sense is this is not the way to go. In general, and this is a position that would have been taken or was taken by Mahatma Gandhi, that violence breeds violence, and so he was very concerned about the Hindus fighting the Muslims who are killing cows. He said this is not going to work. We need to change their heart. And if they're not going to change their heart, we can't do anything. He said the best I would be able to do, he said in one comment, is to give myself for sacrifice in place of the cow. He said, I'm not ready to do that. And therefore, all I can do is, silently let them do it. That ties in with the whole political complexity in India, but violence breeds violence, and it doesn't bring non-violence. So and that sort of activity, yeah, it doesn't get at the root of the problem. We know the root of the problem is lack of God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, lack of any spiritual direction for society. And I think what that kind of activity does is it actually goes against the good work of others who are working peacefully toward changing people's attitudes. One thing we mentioned 2 days ago, there's some 20 different varieties of vegans. So the more moderate type are doing nice things. Some of them are opening vegan restaurants, and that's nice. You know, just having a vegan restaurant there, people start thinking, oh, interesting. And it becomes an idea that gradually gets accommodated, where before it was unthinkable. What was unthinkable to be vegetarian becomes thinkable. To be vegan was unthinkable. That becomes thinkable. And then, you know, for devotees, I would say ahimsa vegan becomes more and more thinkable. And with that will come more effort to make arrangements to have facilities for cows, protected cows, so we can have milk that we can offer to Krishna, knowing this is milk coming from Krishna's cows. Krishna is going to be pleased with this milk especially. Yeah. I am, one of my affiliations is I'm a research fellow of the Oxford Center for Animal Ethics. And one of the foundational principles of this institute is we don't engage in any violent or illegal activity. Although we will promote non-violence, but we're going to do it in a non-violent way. And when I give a presentation at a conference of this institute, I have to sign a document saying that I am not involved in any of this. That's how strong they are to make this position. Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Well, actually, we do have a bit of time still, yeah? So maybe I jump to something else, which I had said I would in the first day. This is kind of, yes. This is some pastimes of Vaishnavas with animals, which have been told by Srila Prabhupada's godbrother O.B.L. Kapoor in his book. He has 2 books that are collections of stories, we can say, hagiographies of sadhus. One is Saints of Braj, and one is Saints of Navadvip, I think it's called. So, there's accounts which we collected, just 3 or 4 here, briefly. So, there was one Sri Avada Das Babaji. These are, I believe, mostly from late 19th, early 20th century. So Avada Das Babaji had one disciple who was quite restless. And one day, this disciple left the ashram. We used to say, blooped. Some years later, one monkey came to the ashram and came into the ashram and approached Avada Das Babaji, came to the Babaji and touched his feet with respect. Avada Das Babaji remembered that some time ago there was this disciple who had been restless, and he had warned him. He said, if you disobey the Guru, you will become a monkey in your next life. So now this monkey has come and has touched his feet, and he remembers and he recognizes, this is my disciple. And so he instructed his monkey disciple to remain in the association of the ashram, to live near the ashram. And so he did, and he would come every day, twice a day for prasadam. And he would also come and sit during the Bhagavatam class. He would come in and just sit and listen to the Bhagavatam class. One day, the monkey was found dead outside the ashram. And this was reported to this Mahant, this Avada Das Babaji, and he instructed his followers to conduct a Vaishnava funeral for the monkey, in this case by depositing the body of the monkey in the Yamuna. Hare Krishna. That's the story. I see Maharaj is here. You'll be giving seminar now, is that right? Okay. I'll just tell one more story that's reported. There was one Barha Baba Mahashoy. This is in Navadvip area. Decided one day to organize a feast for the dogs of the Dham. You may recall that, was it Gorky Das Babaji or was it Jagannath Das Babaji? Gorky Das Babaji referred to the dogs of the Dham. So the dogs of the Dham, they are special. So he announces, we're going to make a feast for the dogs. And everyone is thinking, right, a feast for the dogs. But he says, no, we're going to have a feast for the dog. And he instructs one dog, particular dog which was kind of reddish colored, to go around town and invite all the dogs to the feast. So at the appointed time, and not before, at the appointed time, one after another, all the dogs show up. And when they show up, they all sit in a row, or in two rows. And they're sitting. This is the report. And they are served meals, as one does in a row in a feast. They're given banana plates because this is Bengal, and they're served nice, whatever it was, khichdi, not meat, but khichdi. And none of the dogs start eating. They're just sitting until it's all served. And then one dog begins to sniff the food. And this is a black dog that apparently is considered by the other dogs to be the chief dog. And then all of the dogs begin to eat, and they all are taking their prasad. And then, after they are finished, they all get up and very respectfully, they're each offered a pot of water. So they drink some water. And meanwhile, the devotees who have been watching all of this and who were so doubtful are now completely astonished and completely amazed. After the dogs leave, the devotees, go for the remnants of the dogs. As they understand. Remember, we read 2 days ago that Shivananda Sain offered Dandavat Pranam to the dog that was receiving the green coconut from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now these devotees are respecting the Mahaprasadam of these dogs. Then this Baraha Baba Mahashoy brings together all the plates, but there was one plate that had been served, but it was untouched. And it's evening, and then it's later evening, and at 10 o'clock in the evening, the red dog, the dog that had been sent to invite all the other dogs, appears. And he is seen quietly waiting, and then they serve him this one plate of prasadam. And so he takes his as the final meal. Hare Krishna. So that's the story that's told about the feast for dogs in Navadvip. And there is a place on one of the main streets in Navadvip. It's a temple. I didn't get a chance to go inside and see, but there's a sign outside the temple that says Kukur Mandir. And this is apparently the place where this is said to have taken place. So we can go on pilgrimage to Kukur. Hare Krishna. So I'll stop there. We've just sort of touched on a subject which is a very big subject. And yeah, as I said, I have now completed this book focusing on cows and ethics, and it should be published by the end of this year. And it's going to be available through open access by the generosity of many devotees. It'll be available because it requires a substantial amount of money to go to the publisher to make it possible. It's going to be available free of charge for anyone to download a digital copy from the publisher. Free and legal, not like the Russian, what is it called? Torrent, whatever. Not like that. Okay, thank you all very much indeed. And Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.